The Stage Door Show, celebrating the independent artist. With your host, Dave Hondell.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Stage Door Show tonight. I'm Dave Hondell. Tonight's show is a special one. We have back on the show someone whose career I followed for nearly 2 decades that he was in the NFL. He spent several years with my Minnesota Vikings, but won the ultimate prize with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as a Super Bowl champion QB, Brad Johnson. My celebrity guest co-host tonight stars in the new movie in theaters now called The Life of Chuck. I've seen the movie and cannot tell you how much this movie meant to me and the performance given by this young man, Benjamin Pajak. So welcome to both of you.
Hi, Dave. How you doing?
Doing well. Good to have you both. And Brad, good to have you back, because I know we talked about your trick shots, but that was about 2 years ago. So It's good to have you back. You've had a lot into your repertoire since we've had you back. But, I really want to get into this, though, Brad, starting out, because, obviously Benjamin and I are both huge NFL fans and we both have our teams. But As in general, I know minicamp just ended, and kind of the NFL is starting to ramp up now with all the teams. I think they get about a month or a month and a half off, and they're back at training camp when it really starts in earnest in late July. With all the stuff going on right now, what are your initial thoughts going in, and what are some of the strong teams that you anticipate going into 2025?
It seems like football doesn't stop. It is year round. When the Super Bowl's over, then they start getting ready for the All-Star games, and here comes we're getting ready for the draft, and then there's the hype of all that. Then there's mini camps, and then so that takes you all the way to the middle of June, and then these guys, they get about 3 or 4 weeks off, and then they crank it up for training camp. And then you got 95 guys. You're trying to make a roster. They keep 53 guys on the roster. When I played, there was only 47. When I played, there was 4 preseason games. Now there's only 2 preseason games. So a little bit more opportunity to kind of make the team when you're a younger guy, because you got more film and more tape. And then not only are you trying to make your team, if they cut you, another team will have more film on you. So the playbooks are large, and now they don't do as many two-a-days as they did when we did. We did two-a-days for almost 5 weeks. Now they do one practice and maybe like a long walkthrough. So it's tougher now, but just excited for those guys and opportunity that these teams have. And I'm a big football fan now. I don't play fantasy football, but it is my TV's on all the time. I just love keeping up with these guys and kind of reliving the moments that I got to play. And a lot of these guys, it's a dream come true to make an NFL roster, and it's hard to do it, but just excited for the new wave of people that are doing it.
And Brad, talk about two-a-days and how training camp used to be. I mean, this is the heat of the summer. I mean, it's no joke. Some of the locations, I mean, they're talking, 100 degrees and I mean, that time of year. And so what are your honest thoughts about training camp when you were playing? Was that something you dreaded, or was it something that you were excited about?
Well, you're excited when you get there, then all of a sudden it becomes reality. I mean, it's 7 a.m. till 11 at night, and that's it's practice in the morning, then it's lunch, and then it's meetings, and then it's another practice, and then it's another meeting, and then it's all day long. And the playbooks are really, really thick. I wish I had one now here, but they're just you're not really just repeating plays. You're adding on, and you're adding on, and you're adding on, constantly adding on. Like it's so you got to stay healthy. You got to continually to keep to learn. The playbooks continue to grow, and so it's nowadays they don't quite put in the collective bargain. Kind of takes care of those guys. You can actually maybe play a little bit longer.
Yeah,
I mean, so it's 2 days. It used to be brutal. I mean, you're getting IVs just to try to make it to the next practice. Now sometimes they don't practice in pads. There's just more walkthroughs, even during the course of the regular season. Sometimes we used to practice 3 full days in pads. Now they may be 2 practices or 1 practice, and then others and walkthroughs. So it kind of helps prolong careers, but then you kind of lose the ability for some of those guys to hit and practice. And some, the rules have changed. They protect the quarterbacks now.
Yeah.
Back when I played, they take you to the ground and stuff like that. But it's fun. It's a great game, and they've made all the right rules to protect the players.
Well, and that's one of my questions on here, actually. I wanted to ask you about that because when we talk about protecting the quarterbacks, which I think is a great thing, but like you said, when you played, you had some of the guys would want to take your head off. I mean, you had one of the defenses yourself, in the Buccaneers that had one of those hard hitting defenses. So now that things have changed a little bit and the players are more protected, which of course is a good thing. How has that changed like defensive coordinators' jobs and having to strategize differently? Because I think the coaching back then was, go full out, and it wasn't like, protecting, you could go with helmet first and things like that. So how has that changed the game for a defensive coach? Has it really dramatically changed the way they have to approach things and their game planning?
Right. They never tackle in practice. So that's a good thing. You always have a green jersey or an opposite kind of jersey. So you never get hit in practice, those kind of things. And sometimes in college they do. But the pros, the first time you really get hits in a game. So it's different now because if they hit you late, if they even touch your face mask, it's automatic 10 or 15-yard penalty, a first down, and that and then the rules of they can't grab and hold the receivers like they used to at the line of scrimmage. So now there's a little bit of a grace period, and so the guys are able to get off the jam a lot easier. They find the safeties and for late hits, for defenseless receivers over the middle. So, I mean, that's a lot of money out of some guys' pockets now. I mean, you're looking up to $50,000. Like that's for a late hit. So that you're kind of selective on when you got to hit a guy and when you're not. So when you look at the completion percentages of quarterbacks, back when I played, if you threw over 60%. 63, 64%, you were like way above the curve. I think last year there might have been only like one quarterback that started that was below 60%. So now you get in the high 60s and even above 70%. So the systems are better. They do try to apply more blitzes, more man-to-man coverage, just because they think quarterbacks and systems are better. So higher completion percentages, but they are trying to get to the quarterback a lot quicker with more guys in the box and trying to apply pressure. But for a lineman, it's like, when can I hit a quarterback? Is it too late or not? Or do I push him down? And then you get some great running backs now. Quarterbacks that can run, Lamar Jacksons and Josh Allen's, they can extend plays. So do I hit him or do I not? Do I hit him out of bounds, or is it a penalty? So,
or when does he start his slide versus when does he not start his slide, right?
Yeah, and then they'll kind of fake it and keep on going. So, at the end of the day, as a fan, you want to see points, you want to see great plays, you want to see great games. So the rules are in the safety of the players and best judgment, hopefully by the referees, to make those critical calls. But for quarterbacks and people that are making so much money these days, like you need them in the game. They are your franchise.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. And, with, one of the things that I noticed, and this is one of the main questions that I had, because I'm confused by this, but, teams are carrying more and more QBs when they first start the season. I mean, even during the season, you might have two number one QBs on a roster. And I mean, look at the Steelers now and the Browns. And I mean, that's a pretty packed QB room there. So, as a QB and you're like, one of the top or, number one, I guess, or maybe number two, what is your mentality going into training camp with these rooms? And you look at the Steelers now, and now they got Aaron Rodgers, so what does that do to the other QBs? I mean, mentally, what does that do to these guys when they first, go into the season, knowing that they're one of maybe five QBs on the team?
Well, when the regular season starts, they keep 53 guys on the roster, and now they keep 16 extra practice squad players.
Yeah.
So on game day, they only dress 47 players. So sometimes it may be just two quarterbacks that are active. And they make the third quarterback, he can only come in like in the fourth quarter. You actually saw San Francisco lose a game in the NFC Championship game 2 years ago where they only had two quarterbacks active. They both got hurt, Brock Purdy and I can't remember the other one, Joe Johnson, I think. But when you're a starter, it's really, you take all the reps in practice. So the only reps the other quarterbacks may get is in preseason or in the training camp periods, because when the regular season starts, the starting quarterback takes 95 to 100% of all the reps. So the backup quarterbacks, you really kind of got to get mental reps, and then you're running scout team cards where that doesn't help you because you're not really running your regular plays. So it's a fine line of how many quarterbacks do they keep on the roster. Now they're playing 17 games. They're getting ready to go to 18 games here pretty soon. So the health of a quarterback, it's a long season. So it's a great question. How many do they keep active, and how do you share the reps? And it's different from team to team, but it's a physical game. It's a long year, and at some point, good chance your backup quarterback is going to be playing at some point during the course of the season.
Yeah, and that's a good. I love that answer because that's one of the things I always wonder why teams that carry so many. But if you think about it, like you said, I mean, it's a brutal season, and you need those backups in order to get through those seasons. But what are your thoughts of the NIL and in college right now? And I know that the transfer portal. I know both of your sons play for North Carolina for Bill Belichick, and so going into the season right now, what are your thoughts on the coaching aspect of NIL and transfer portal? Has it made it difficult for coaches to kind of plan, I guess, for season to season, knowing that some guys might enter that transfer portal, and if they do, how that changes maybe the look of their team, maybe the talent level of people enter the portal? What are your thoughts as a football guy yourself? How do you navigate something like that as a coach in college now that exists?
It's a wide open question there. Okay. So we could probably do a 3-hour podcast on that one, but I don't believe in NIL. That is name, image, and likeness. Okay. So that means you you see a guy doing a commercial. Okay. That's name, image, and likeness. There's not many commercials going on. It's more of what's called a collective, and they're just giving the money to the kid.
Right.
Okay. So, and the hard part, Dave, to be honest with you, is when they bring in a kid and they pay a kid, the guys that they for the position that they paid for the kid to come in, they're going to play that position. They're going to play the money player.
Yeah.
They can say what they want to say, but they're going to play the money player at certain positions. And then so you might need to transfer. Okay.
Yeah, right.
And it's worked out for a lot of players. It really has. So, but I wish, and hopefully they figured out that they could pay every player on the roster and give them, whether it's by position, a certain amount of money, kind of make it equal for everybody. When I played, the only money we got was $10 per diem after the game. And you could not transfer, or you lost a year of eligibility. But I think it's the hard part about these kids transferring now is when you go someplace, you better have a place to go, because you're not guaranteed to get picked up by another school.
Yeah.
And it's made it hard, honestly, for a lot of the high school kids coming out, because there's so much pressure on these colleges now. They're paying so much money to win. These college coaches are going to ask a businessman to give them money to pay these players and really to go win. So they really don't want to bring in too many freshmen to count on a 17, 18-year-old kid when they could have a 22-year-old, man play. And so there's it kind of, it's Pandora's box, but some teams are, they hate it when they lose players, and sometimes they ask the players to leave, but then they're excited about the players that they're able to gain through the transfer portal. But it's I hate to say it is what it is, but that's where we're at. And so nowadays, when you see the national champions, usually they had the most money to go pay and for the roster. So it'll be, and that goes in, most sports.
Yeah, that's true. My last question here before I turn it over to Benjamin is Max. How is Max doing in his recovery? And I think, is he almost at 100% at this point? Because I saw the injury, and I saw you and Nikki in the crowd in Minnesota when I was watching that game, and how devastating that was. So how is Max doing right now?
Yeah, we have two kids. My wife Nikki and I have two boys that play at North Carolina. Jake is a tight end, and Max is he's a quarterback. Last year, the first game of the season, he snapped his femur, got hit. I've never heard of a broken femur in football. Yeah, and so he put a rod into it, and just it's taken time. It's taken we're almost at 10 and a half months. Right now, he's at about 100. He's almost full speed right now. Oh, awesome. And so it was almost at the beginning when he had it, they thought he might have to amputate his leg. It was really serious. Yeah, it was very, very serious. And and honestly, that's where we were so thankful for text messages, prayers, people just reaching out to us. But this recovery has been incredible. And so to watch Max, he's able to make all the throws. It's just a blessing to see him run again the way he can and jump and do all those kind of things. We put some stuff out on social media, and it's only going to get more and more ramped up with some videos that we're going to put out here pretty soon.
That's awesome to hear. I'm glad he's almost at 100%.
Yeah.
So right now I want to turn it over to Benjamin. I know Benjamin has some great questions for you. So go ahead. It's all the show. The show is yours, Benjamin.
Oh, this is really cool. I've never hosted a podcast before. Well, everything that you just said, I could sit there and listen to for a million years. I just learned so much from just the both of you talking. I just a few questions for you, Brad. First one, what were your like initial thoughts when you first get to Tampa? I mean, the switch obviously from Minnesota, it's a completely different play style, different playbook, different coaches, a whole different team. What were you thinking going into Tampa, and what were the things that you wanted to improve with the team?
Yeah, when I was fortunate enough to when I played at Minnesota and Washington to have played against Tampa a bunch. So I actually played, and Tony Dungy was the head coach who brought me in. I'd been with him in Minnesota. He was our defensive coordinator for 3 years. So there was a lot of great relationship there, great respect because we had been together and we played against each other. And then a lot of players on Tampa's team, Derek Brooks and Warren Sapp and John Lynch and Warwick Dunn at the time, and there was like Keyshawn Johnson. Like I knew them, so we had relationships of going in there together. So I didn't have to like learn all new names. It's hard to learn new names on each team each year. And then the coaches, the system, there's a lot going on there. But I felt like it was the perfect fit for me with my style of play to go down there and try to help them lead them to a world title. And it actually worked out, which the odds of that are very, very slim, but the personalities are big. Are very important when you do that, and then obviously the talent that comes with it. So it was a great fit for me to go back down to Tampa and play with a bunch of friends and guys I respected.
Yeah, and you guys had an amazing team when you won the Super Bowl that year. I mean, so many names from Derek Brooks to John Lynch. I think the defense and the offense just molded together perfectly. When you got down to Tampa. And going actually to the Super Bowl, what was one of the keys to success when you guys were playing against the Raiders? Because you guys just dominated that whole game, and it was just amazing to see you guys just kind of have fun that whole time.
Yeah. We had a great team. We got hot. We were 12-4 as the regular season went on. We went 3-1 out of every 4 games, so we're 12-4. But we got hot. We were healthy at the end of the season. And then there was only 1 week in between the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl. Usually there's 2 weeks in between. So we came in hot right off the NFC Championship win over Philadelphia. And I think the biggest thing for a Super Bowl is honestly like it's a dream come true to be in that moment, to play in such a stage. But at the same time, keep the game the game. The field dimensions don't change. The plays, like we run our plays, they run their plays. And don't let the moment, just like you're on a Broadway play and making movies, like don't let the moment become too big. Really just kind of dial into each play, one play at a time. And then the greatness of it is when the game is over, the difference of it, there's going to be some confetti fall. Confetti's going to fall on the winner's face. And that was an incredible moment to be a part of. But but we just had a lot of great coaches. We had a lot of coaches on that team that went on to be head coaches. Mike Tomlin was on defense, and he went on to win Super Bowls with Pittsburgh. And Rich Bisaccia he's our special teams coach, went on to be a head coach. And Rod Marinelli, and we had great Monty Kiffin, and like we had great players. We've had 4 guys make the Hall of Fame. Warren Sapp, Derek Brooks, John Lynch, and Rondé Barber, and then hopefully Simeon Rice.
Yeah.
But we had a lot of coaches go on too. So just everybody in the building was pretty awesome. So
How was it building chemistry with everyone on that team? I mean, there were so many people on that team, like you just said, who are legends, and hopefully Simeon Rice will be one of them in the Hall of Fame really, really soon. I'm rooting for that. But what was it like building chemistry with your new wide receivers and your new team?
yeah, John Gruden was our head coach, and John brought in a bunch of free agents that year, like almost 20 players. On offense, he brought in Joe Jaravicious, Keenan McCardell, receivers who caught 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. Keyshawn Johnson was already there, brought in Michael Pittman, running back, and a lineman brought in Robert Oman, our left tackle, and Kerry Jenkins. So the defense was already stabilized. from all the years in the past, pretty much. And then offensively, we brought in a lot of new players and just, learning how to call a play in the huddle, like U shift, green, left, west, F short, spiral to U bananas, the overheads up for 359 smoke. Like there's a lot of terminology changes that we had to learn and chemistry, but we grew together. But the respect that we had from, not only special teams, but offense versus defense every day in practice, knowing that every man on the field was a great player, but we could get it done on both sides of the ball. So pretty great group, pretty awesome.
Hey, Benjamin, before you get to your next question, Brad, you just did something, and I saw your expression. Benjamin, can you say another play and that you remember from the Buccaneers? Because I'm blown away by how you can remember this to this day. So say one of these.
There's a video of Joe Burrow doing that.
Crazy.
Memorizing 30, 40 some ridiculous words.
Yeah.
And it means
How do you guys remember those words?
Yeah. You have when you call a play in a huddle, so there's a personnel grouping, like is it two tight ends and two receivers, or is it three tight ends? I mean, three receivers and one tight end. So they call that either 11, 12, or 13 personnel. So, but each word you say has meaning to it. So if I say you shift, that's telling a position to shift. You shift to green, right, west. Well, green might be a formation, and then an ending formation. Then you might have a motion, F short, and then you might be. Then you have the protection call, and then you have the route call. Then you have the snap count. So another one would be axe, double right spear, lay 735 H pump, double cadence on 2. But you say it so much and practice so much that at the beginning it is a foreign language, but eventually each word you say has meaning to it. So as a quarterback, you better get that out verbally correct. And then they better, a lot of times in the huddle, it's really loud. So a lot of times they're reading your lips, and eventually you have hand signals and those kind of things. So it's a lot of practice goes into being able to call a play in the huddle.
Crazy.
Yeah, I
still, but it's like you, Benjamin. You better know your words, man.
Yeah, but learning lines is completely different. I mean, those are just words.
Yeah, that's all it is for us too. It's just words. So, I got a question for you, real quick. So practicing those words or singing songs, is it when do you practice that? Is that something in the shower? Is it in the car? Is it in your room? Where do you do that at?
Yeah, it's actually kind of just what you just said. I will be practicing my lines. I'll be saying them whenever. I mean, I'll be throwing the football with my mom, or cooking, or showering, and I'll be saying the lines to myself. And what that kind of does for me is it kind of gets me into a mindset of not having to think about the words and more thinking about it. As an actor, I'm more focused on my emotions and what I'm trying to play in the scene, and the words come more naturally to me when I'm not trying to think about them.
Yeah.
In a way, and I think it's kind of the same for football. I think when you're in the moment, it's just more of knowing the play and knowing, who your first read is. Is the tight end going to be open here? What coverage is the defense in? It's funny. My acting coach kind of always kind of links football and acting together a lot. So everything you're saying about football, it's kind of coming back to me in acting terms.
Do you ever film yourself?
Yeah, I film myself when I do auditions and stuff, but I will film myself even leading up to an audition, just to practice it more and to see well, I can do this better, and I can do this differently, or maybe I can try this on the line, and all that practice kind of gets you into the finished product, and it's the transformation of that is kind of so satisfying at the end, and seeing where you came from and where you are now, and it's the same thing for a role, and it's the same thing if you were a quarterback or a wide receiver.
I got a friend, his name's Anthony Dilweg. He actually played at Duke University a long time ago, back in the 80s, and his head coach was a guy named Steve Spurrier. And so Coach Spurrier asked Anthony Dilweg, what is your major? And so you're expecting, Duke University to be finances or some kind of business class or something like that. And so my friend Dilwig, he says, I'm in theater. He's like, Spurrier's like, holy smokes. He's like, well, that's your deal. You got to start acting like you're a quarterback. And so just whether it's pointing at something or just acting like you got command of something, or, just play a role like in a movie, how to call a play in a huddle, or just give that command at the line of scrimmage. So I think you're always probably in some kind of role to maybe
Yeah.
not in a movie sometimes, but just I guess that transformation of putting yourself into to the moment, I guess.
Well, looking back on your career, and this doesn't have to be with Tampa or anything. I mean, what do you consider your biggest accomplishment of your career in the NFL? Because there's so many things. So many things mean different things to people in the league, and 7 Super Bowls for Tom Brady is one thing, and trying to break those records for Patrick Mahomes is another thing. But what was your kind of your most memorable moment that meant the most to you?
Wow, I think all of it. I think there's a couple things really with that. I think you have to know your why of why you're playing, and I think for me it took me a while, but and I call it my 2 seconds. Okay, so my 2 seconds is being able to call a play in the huddle, like just to have 20 eyeballs facing you, okay, in the huddle, and green right slot, 97 Wanda heads up for a buster call, check 96 Seattle heads up for 58 Dolphin. Like it takes 2 seconds to call, and then being able to take dissect the defense standing at the line of scrimmage, and then is it and then just being able to make a great play fake and faking the linebackers out and throwing that dig route 18 yards in between the linebackers and free safeties and giving a first down. That takes 2 seconds. And then like scoring a touchdown and giving a high five or hugging somebody. It's 2 second moments. And I think that was my why. But I think, I had a lot of great plays in my career. But I think the biggest thing, what I miss the most is just the grind, just the actual work of like calling a play in a huddle, and then learning the play, and then in the meetings, and then going to a walkthrough, and then going to a practice, and then watching the film of it afterwards, and then knowing that on Sunday afternoon there's going to be 75,000 people in the crowd, but there's going to be millions watching on TV. But then making that simple play work. It's a lifetime of practice, but it's 2 seconds you only get to do it. So I can't tell you one particular play, but those are the moments of my why, and moments that the grind is what I probably enjoyed the most.
That's amazing. There's not a lot of people that I've met that enjoy the work part of it, getting to be the best, or to be the version of you that you want to be, and that's just amazing. And it really paid off, as you know, and people cannot thank you enough for bringing the first Super Bowl to Tampa, and for everything you
Yeah.
did in your career. Can you describe what the atmosphere was like in the locker room, and for both teams? I mean, obviously switching teams is a hard thing to do and a hard feeling, but it's also really hard to switch play styles and passing styles, and working with new coaches and players. What was the atmosphere like in both locker rooms?
Um, well, it's tough. You're always dealing the part that doesn't really get known about a quarterback is we're always talking about how far can he throw? Does he have a strong arm? Can he run with the ball? What's really lost the art of a quarterback is it never stops. It's a lifetime position. So you're always how do you deal with your play caller, like the installation of a play? How do you get a receiver to run a 17-yard comeback, and you want it to come back down to, I'm going to throw the ball at 13 yards. I'm not going to throw it at 17 yards. Like the dynamics of communication and getting the most out of all the players around you. How do you deal with success? How do you deal with failure? You throw a touchdown. I always call it like a gauntlet. Like when you throw a touchdown, everyone's patting you on the back. When everyone's you throw an interception, everybody's slapping you on the face. Like, so you got to somehow the dynamics of your relationships with not only just your offensive players, but then your defensive players, and then like handling the crowd, handling the press conference after the game, and then really trying to credit everybody on the team. Like there's so much that goes into playing quarterback than just throwing a ball. That's the easy part. It's the other stuff. How do you deal with the prima donna receiver? How do you deal with not throwing your offensive line under the bus after you take a sack, or like how you deal with not throwing your play caller under the bus. We're like, that was a terrible call, man, in that situation. Like, so those are things that we had to deal with. But I'll say this, that, we had some great players in Minnesota, great players in Tampa, and then, fortunate enough to have success in both. But it takes great players, great coaches. And then as a quarterback, you got to rein in all the personalities.
When you actually threw Randy Moss's first touchdown passes,
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people know that.
Yeah, Dave and Benjamin. I did a few first things. Okay, so I threw Chris Carter and Tim Brown their 100th touchdown pass. Okay,
Wow.
And then I threw Randy Moss's first touchdown pass. I threw Warren Sapp his first touchdown pass.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
I threw Champ Bailey his first completion. These are all Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
And then, except me. And then I threw myself my first touchdown pass to myself. So,
and I was there, by the way.
Reflection, you were there.
I was there.
Should have given you the game ball, Dave.
I was right in the front row of the end zone when that happened. I'll never forget that.
Yep.
Tom is one of my best friends. I've been working with Tom on a lot of different things. He's actually co-hosted this show in the past. And, he also does, he's a great playwright. He's written several original theater productions. So I know Benjamin, you could have a lot to talk about with Tom here, but Tom is also the executive producer and director of the new documentary called King Snake. That'll be out in the fall this year. And so, we're excited about that, which I'm one of the producers on that as well. But I wanted to welcome Tom on the show because I know that he's, again, a huge Bucs fan and Seminoles, and I know he has a question for you, Brad. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Tom.
Okay. My question was, like I said, I've watched you guys or the Seminoles forever, and then the year that you were there, I went to the one and only Blockbuster Bowl. They had one, and it was you guys against Joe Paterno. So huge, the two greatest coaches in college history record-wise. And when that year started, you were the starter, and then it bounced back and forth between you and Casey Weldon. And, you were both great. The record spoke for itself. But I was telling Dave, to be an athlete at that level, let alone the NFL, your goal is to get to the NFL. And so for you to have to go through not starting, I got to be a team player, and there was no player portal back then. What was that like to go through? Like, I don't even know. Did you get drafted or did you walk on? Because you definitely, you're one of the few people who can go, I'm a winning Super Bowl quarterback.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a great question. Honestly, at one point, our quarterback room at Florida State, head coach, offense coordinator was Mark Rick, who's now my brother-in-law.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
I think I knew that, actually.
Yeah, he became the head coach at Georgia and Miami later on. And then in the room, we had Casey Weldon, who ended up being the runner-up to the Heisman, Charlie Ward, who won the Heisman National Championship, and then 11-year NBA career. Chris Winkie was there, who won a Heisman National Championship. And Kenny Felder was a first-round draft pick, and then me. And then, we all thought each other stunk and that we should be starting and stuff. But ended up, it was a very talented room. And but that year I started, they decided to make a move. And then, that was Casey Weldon. He was my best friend. We're still in touch to this day. We actually talked yesterday. And but, when you get replaced and you really hadn't done anything wrong, but they make a move, then Casey was playing great. I think the next year we won the Blockbuster Bowl game. He was up for the Heisman. We were number one in the country. You're watching someone live out your dream, and you can't really do anything about it.
Yeah.
And the things that I learned, as a player, that you're taught, the only two things you can control is your attitude and your effort. And I knew that I had some choices. I could have transferred and went to a lower school. I could have tried to go Canadian. I could have I thought about actually going back and playing basketball at Florida State, and I actually thought about quitting. But I said, I'm going to see this thing through. So I saw it through. I finished out my career. I only started one game my senior year. I ended up being the 9th round pick, 227th pick to the Minnesota Vikings, 1992 draft. And then later, at 8 years into my career, Casey Weldon, I played again. Then he's my backup in Washington. So it's a small world. but you just can't give in. You can't quit. And I wasn't going to give up on my dream as I looked through that moment and just worked, finally got the right opportunity and then came through in those clutch moments.
That's for me. It was on a personal level. I was so happy for you, especially the way you guys dominated the Raiders.
Yeah.
Part of which I credit Coach Gruden. Like he knew them inside and out. He had just been their coach. But you guys. And for you to because you had a career where you bounced a couple teams, but you clicked so well that year at the Bucks. Everything about that year was just magical. When you guys beat the Eagles to get there, because
Yeah.
everybody had been like the Eagles owned them, and
Right.
they didn't own you that day. And then you got to the Super Bowl and it was glorious.
Yeah. 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 Now,
Benjamin, if you get a chance,
yeah,
go back and find that and look it up.
yeah.
Watch that game on Classics or something because it was amazing.
I think you
I know.
did.
I just watched it. Yeah, I just watched it again today. It's like I'm still blown away by it.
Yeah.
I want to say, Brad, too, I do agree with Coach Gruden. That one touchdown that the Raiders got was not a touchdown. That was not a catch.
I think he told the referee he's out of his skull, So, but no, it's really interesting about the Super Bowl was actually everyone talked about how Gruden knew their plays, and but the truth of the matter is they were with Gruden for 4 years, so they knew our plays too.
That's true.
And but we were just rolling at the end of the season, and I think that you said something briefly about it, but beating Philadelphia in the NFC Championship game that's the game I'll remember the most. Honestly, to me, that's the most rewarding. They'd beaten us, I think, 4 straight times in Tampa, and they'd beaten us earlier that year, October 20th of that year, kind of just knocked us out. So we had to go beat them in the cold on the road at the Vet. And that was the last game of the Vet, so we shut it down. Then actually,
I forgot.
the last game there, and then next year we actually opened up the new stadium and beat them on Monday Night Football. So went back to back on them, but that was a great moment in time, and that was as rewarding as anything that ever happened in my career.
I will tell you who the 2 twin brothers who played in the NFL and was a cornerback on the Bucks who made that interception to seal that Eagles game. What was it? What was his name?
Rondé Barber. And
Rondé Barber. And when he picked that sucker, I was like, ah!
He took it to the house. His twin brothers, Tiki Barber, running back
Barber,
for. He'll have a chance to make Hall of Fame also. But Rondé was a great player. I think he's the first player to get 20 sacks and 20 interceptions, and then obviously made the Hall of Fame from that. But just instinctive player.
Well, and that game there was, I don't know if it was Rondé's interception for a touchdown or there was some touchdown where Coach Gruden was running down the sidelines, leaping players, and he was super psyched. I think I was in my heart of hearts. I was right there with him. That was the most emotional game. Well, like you said, the Eagle game before it, and then the open the season the next year with the Eagles was again equally like we still got you guys.
yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Gruden made it fun for all of us. He was a very emotional guy. So he was the same way he was on game days, the way he was in practice. So he made it tough on us, but he was a tremendous head coach.
I did want to ask you too, Tony Dungy. What was it like playing with him? Because I became a Bucks fan when Tony Dungy went there. I was I like this guy.
Yeah, Tony and I were actually together in Minnesota. I was talking to Benjamin earlier, but I was with him for 3 years when he was the defense coordinator in Minnesota, and Denny Green was the head coach, and then played against him a bunch when he was in Tampa. Played against him a bunch. So, but Tony was just he was old school, and what people don't know about him, he actually won a Super Bowl when he played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then he actually was a quarterback at the University of Minnesota.
That's right.
But the thing called Tampa 2, Tampa 2 it's actually a certain coverage, but. Tony will give credit to Chuck Noll, who was the head coach at Pittsburgh. They really ran a form of Tampa 2 in Pittsburgh like in 1975 or something like that, whatever year it was. But then Tony, he honed it in, and then it became Tampa 2 forever because of what, the way he installed it and the way he taught it and then the success that he had. But Tony was great to play for. A guy, he's the gold standard of, a man you respect, on and off the field. So it was thankful to say he was my head coach at one point, and then a great friendship with him. Then he went on to win a Super Bowl with the Indianapolis Colts.
I was so happy when he got that championship too, because really, to a large degree, I felt like that team that beat the Raiders was part Tony's team. I mean, he had a large part in that team. He turned Tampa around. They had the one draft where they got Warren Sapp. They got the Warwick Dunn, Derek Brooks.
Yeah,
Like that defense was loaded. That you guys had.
Yeah.
All right, so right now, Brad, I want to put up some of your trick shots. I know, as everybody knows out there, you have some of these that went viral on both, I know X and TikTok, and I know you're also on Instagram. But you've actually been able to build this up to get several thousand hits on this. And I know you've been on ESPN as well with your trick shots. But I wanted you to kind of walk us through a little bit of some of your trick shots here, because I know last time you were on, we had some of you throwing footballs at the goalpost, and I think we have one of those in here. But just kind of share with us some of your trick shots and how you actually got to do these, because I mean you're so good at these, and some of these are just phenomenal. That I mean, how did you even do this? So kind of walk us through this a little bit.
I've had fun with all the trick shots. So I played basketball was my favorite sport growing up as a kid, and played 2 years at Florida State. But I got busy with these trick shots during the pandemic of just making all kinds of shots. And so these kind of shots you'll see right here, it's kind of grown, the stuff I would do. So I try to throw one ball up and then make the other shots before the first ball goes in. So in this video here, there's 15 shots where the first ball goes up and then the next ball goes in before the first shot.
Yeah.
And so I call it first,
So it's all timing. It's timing.
It's all timing, and it's hard to get them in. And so a lot of times, everybody says, how long does it take? And I'll say, well, it was either first take, or I'll say it was a lifetime of practice, which is true. But then I'll say it takes what it takes. So a lot of these shots, I mean, they took 8 to 15 hours to make. And it's kind of like what you'd see on Dude Perfect kind of do.
Right.
The difference with me and Dude Perfect is I'm by myself. And I'm out there. Every time I miss it, I got to go chase the balls. And I'm the cameraman. And
by the way, I love your easel there, your tent with your name on it. I love it.
We got a tent and there, I mean, it's, and I got a cape in one of these videos. Like, it's funny when people walk by, but I get in the zone doing it. I've had fun, a lot of exercise, when you see the celebration, it is true jubilation. Is what it really is.
It's amazing.
But I've had fun doing it, and then it's kind of given me just another, things to do, like stay active. And this is a kick and I don't know what it is. It's crazy. So but it's fun. It's fun. And it's a lot of times I'm making these shots blind. I'm actually looking at the camera. So I can tell if the ball goes in.
Right.
But then sometimes, the ball bounces over the fence and I'm over there climbing it and chasing these balls down too. So that's half the battle is just chasing the balls down. But man, I've had so much fun doing it, Dave. I can't explain it. So it's just
Benjamin, is this something you play basketball too, Benjamin, or do you just throw the football around?
See, I never played basketball because I was always too short. Like, I just started getting a growth spurt, and I'm now 5'6".
Yeah.
Am I okay?
No, you go ahead.
I'm now just starting to grow. I never played basketball, but I started doing it. I started playing basketball recently again with friends and stuff, and I'm the guy who kind of gets them the ball. I never shoot because I can never do it. I'm more of a football guy. I now I always wanted to be the quarterback. I always played with my friends. I always threw the ball, and I think football's always been my passion. But this is incredible.
Well, so Benjamin, speaking of football, watch what he does with these footballs here. And Brad, I when I saw you throw this left-handed, I'm like, oh my gosh! I mean, it's hard enough to do it with your strong hand, but explain this. How did you do this?
Well, I try not to tell anybody, and then eventually they figured out. So this is where I throw it left-handed, and then turn around and throw it right-handed.
A couple questions.
Yeah.
And
How do you make all that?
And then the problem of it is when I'm talking to the camera, sometimes I got to say it, a few times, So, but I try not to say much about it and just go left-handed, right-handed. And actually, on this video, I go back to back, and I actually threw another one, and it almost hit the rim too. So
Did it really?
But a lot of my shots they're usually a sequence of 3, 4, 5 shots in a row,
Yeah.
and that's the hard part about all of it is trying to make them all in a row. Because you might make 3 or 4, then you got to make that 5th one. That's why the true jubilation
Yeah.
is really real when you do it. And so I'm out there. It's a bag of balls now that I carry out there, and then a bunch of water and Gatorade and all that stuff too. But it's a lot of those videos. They took 8 to 15 hours to make.
Wow.
So that's 4 to 5 days to actually make one video sometimes.
That's great. And then when are we going to see Nikki on these more? Because I know you had her on one not too long ago, and she actually made the shot, and I think she said doink afterwards. Like, that's your big thing is when you hit one, you go doink.
Yeah.
That's why I told you this last time. My wife went around the house yelling doink, and it's like, because of your videos. I think it's just incredible. And you can do this as a family. I've seen Max on these as well.
Yeah. When Nikki made the one, she started kicking her feet and celebrating, and I threw her the hat, and she was pumping her fist too and all that kind of stuff. And then, but we did a couple of family videos. One is all 4 of us shooting a basket, and then another one's all 4 of us hitting the doink. But then not every one of us hit every time. And then eventually, like, we get mad at each other, and there's a lot of screaming. So I've learned not to kind of get too much of the family involved, because there's not a lot of patience with the whole family. So, but they've had fun, watching all the videos too.
That's amazing. And, well, as we conclude this, first of all, I just wanted to thank you, Brad, for doing this again. It's just been an honor and a pleasure. And for you, Benjamin, for all of our listeners, make sure you go see The Life of Chuck. Again, it's a moving, amazing, and I have a feeling that this is going to get nominated for several awards, including your performance, Benjamin. So this is your 3rd time on my show, and I can't thank you enough. It's been an honor to have you back again, Benjamin and Brad. So, thank you both again for being on the show tonight.
Yeah. Hey, Benjamin, man, I'm going to be excited to watch your whole career, man. So I'm going to be eating popcorn and ice cream and watching your whole career for a long time. So excited about what you've done and what you're going to do in the future too. So I'm going to be one of your biggest fans. And so Dave, I appreciate you reaching out and letting me be part of the show too. So thank you, buddy.
I'm going to keep watching your TikToks, because now this is I am blown away by everything you're doing, and this is like so entertaining. So please keep doing them.
Yeah, it's fun.